Hi everybody, it's Karen. I'm back and I want to share with you the book that I created to keep all my 52 tags from the 52 tags handmade challenge that we did this year with Anne Brooke. And I have posted all my tags on Instagram, so you can follow me on Instagram, and it is my name, Karen Billinger, the same as my YouTube channel if you're looking for me there. And also I have posted some videos on my YouTube channel showing my 52 tags, except I believe the last 4, which I will show when I'm going through the book. I created the book with a hardcover novel that I had, and it didn't have a wide enough binding. This book cover is 6 by 8.5. And I had to, because it's very wide, there's a lot of tags, a lot of yumminess in there. I did all fabric pages and then attached all of the tags onto the pages. So I created a binding on the side with fabric, and then I did tatted and embroidered flowers and embroidery work all on the side, and one of my beaded butterflies, a tatted butterfly. These are all tatted flowers, and this is embroidery on top of just a piece of lace, a lace flower. And I added beads, and I put in a silk rolled rose here at the bottom, and there's one of my little tatted dragonflies. A lot of work went into the binding, and I just did that on top of a separate piece of fabric that I attached then onto this piece of fabric that I had created the binding with. And then on this side I added in more tatted flowers and doily, a handmade doily that I had made. These are all handmade, all done by me. So I really like how it turned out. I think it's really pretty. I added this piece of stretch lace underneath this added on piece here, and then underneath this one, so it goes all the way around to help keep it closed. The tags are just attached onto each of the pages with just a simple little stitch with some perlé cotton, white perlé cotton, and then tied on. So there is some movement in the pages, but this keeps the book nice and secure and looks super yummy on the bottom and the sides. Actually, let me just undo this. Stretch lace is lovely. This is, you get on a roll from Hobby Lobby. A friend sent me that, and it's really nice for making ties on books. And then this is the inside, and this tie goes all the way around, and then there's the side view with all those yummy tags. They were on the ring, and they did manage to fit on all 52 tags on that ring, but it was quite big and bulky, and I just couldn't see it in my craft room on, you know, just hanging out there. It was falling off of the ring or the place I had it hung, and I just decided I wanted something a little more permanent and something that I could page through a little more easily. So on the inside, again, I did fabric on the outside to make the binding, and I did an extra piece of fabric on the inside to make it nice and stable. And then I used a piece of that stretch lace and just covered that white fabric, which was just an old pillowcase. And I then embellished the inside here with, again, this is a tatted little doily and tatted flowers and a beaded butterfly and a little tassel here I made, and another little piece of lace. And then I added in all of the tags, and they're all in order, and 4 tags fit to a page. The pages, again, were made from just a cotton fabric, either an old bed sheet or a pillowcase, and I just left them frayed on the edges. I love the look. I thought it looked great. And again, just a little stitch with some perlé cotton, a little stitch at the top of each one. Just to fit on the page, I tucked the lower ones just under the upper ones. I can still flip them up and read. I wrote on all my tags, so the date and the tag number and that, and sometimes I wrote little thoughts on them as well. That's all still easy to be able to read and look at as I page through this book. I will link the list, and you can go and look at them all if you want to look at them in more detail. Some of them I stopped doing tutorials because I just found that the viewership wasn't really very high on them, and they're a lot of work to put together. My stitching takes me time. I do put a lot of thought into it, and I enjoy it, and I like to do it sitting in front of the TV watching a movie or watching a show. So I just find that doing it in front of a camera is just not as enjoyable. So most of the videos are just pictures, and most of them are to music, and they're fairly short, but they show more detail on some of the stitches, and it tells you the title of each one. Like this one was tag 4, and it was called Fly Stitch. And the first one was all white. And so I'm just gonna page through. You can see there's lots of movement in the tags. I don't mind that. I know I've seen other people have attached theirs down more solidly. Some people didn't write on the back of theirs, so they don't mind attaching them right onto a page. I wanted mine to be able to flip up so that I could read, or you know, maybe in time my daughter might have this book and she might want to read some of the things that I wrote when I was making these tags, and what sort of the prompt was for each of the tags. Just gonna flip through these. As I say, the pages are all white cotton fabric that's just stitched into the book, and the tags are then attached on 4 to a page. And this was one of my favorites. This one was a brooch. This is actually this piece on the here is attached onto a brooch pin and then put onto the tag. I used playing cards for my tags and added tabs on the top. So that was an upcycle. I didn't have tags in my stash and I didn't want to buy any. And the materials for the tags was all embroidery floss and crochet cottons that I had in my stash. And then I did use some napkins and buttons and beads. And the materials were mostly from thrift store finds that I purchased from Nanny's Attic by Nola on Facebook. And I used those fabrics to create my tags with. And then laces and trims that I used on some of them were from Angel Dream Crafts, came on Etsy. This one, this tea time one, this is actually a napkin that I put onto a piece of fabric, and I do that quite often. I use the napkin as sort of my pattern, and then I do some added stitching on top. And this was tea time, I think this one was called, and I did a tatted border on the bottom and a tatted butterfly. This one was one of my favorites as well. I had actually started doing this little fairy. She was from a vintage table runner that I had bought from Nanny's Attic by Nola. Reminded me of embroidery work that I had done as a child with my mom. It was that, you know, printed onto the fabric and then you stitched over top. So I cut her all out of the table or the runner, and I added her onto a piece of fabric so that I could stitch. And I did. I had started stitching her with, I didn't know what I was going to do with her at the time that I started stitching her, but I just wanted to embellish her. And I did her little shoes in just little fly stitches, and there's a border here of all French knots, and then pistol stitch, and then rows and rows of beads, little tiny seed beads that I sewed on. And then I did her wings in fly stitch with a gold thread, a shiny gold thread, and the regular embroidery floss gold thread, and then added little beads as well. And I added this fiber in behind the back of her to add even more. And this tag was called Yummy. And I just, when I saw the prompt, I picked her out of my pile of things. I hadn't quite finished her. I finished her off. I added a little wire here in her hand, and this little tiny star I had in my stash, I added that in her hand here, and added a little silver heart at her neckline with some beads for a necklace. And she turned out to be my tag for Yummy, and just one of my favorites. And I love her that she's in this book because it was something, has some memories for me, and I like that I was able to include some fabrics and some things in this book that I really wanted to have sort of as a keepsake. I like this one. This one was what was the prompt on this one again? It was It was, oh, isn't that week 46? I think it was, I can't remember. Wrap. Oh, it's a wrap. I forgot to write that on the tag. I'm surprised. And I wrapped. I often do these beads done on wraps, and I sort of decided to do this idea with the variegated and different colored embroidery flosses, and it turned out really cute. This is another napkin that I've stitched on and then embellished further with some tatted flowers and some stickles. This is one of my favorites. Again, this hummingbird I had in my stash, and I had done some painting with stickles on her, but I hadn't ever finished her, but I was saving her for a special project. And this one was a memory, and hummingbirds remind me of my mom, and so I decided I would use fabric. Her favorite color was a dusty rose, and I did all kinds of seed stitches and fly stitch this fabric, and then added, couched on this a chipboard hummingbird and I also added some French knot stitches to hold her down, as well as some couching stitches to hold her onto the tag. And I used a really sparkly thread so it blends in well. You can't hardly tell the difference between which is French knots and what is stickles, and I really like that. And these were the last four that I don't think I had shown. So that one, Memories. This one was week 50, and it was circles. And crocheted 3 circles on some wire that I had in my stash. And then I added in some French knots to couch them onto this really pretty fabric that Nola had given me from Annie's Attic by Nola. Added some little tatted flowers and French knots in the center of those. And a little bow made out of some fibers. And then this one was a wreath, and instead of doing an embroidery wreath, I had just learned how to do this sort of 3D type wreath from Charlotte Peterson on YouTube, and I had made one. She had made hers with paper, and I did mine with little bits of Christmas fabric, and then I embroidered on some lazy daisy stitch and French knots, some flowers here, and I couched it onto the tag here and there with French knots, added a little bow, and did some stitches around the edge, and that was my wreath. And then the last one was macrame, and she macrameed a little Christmas tree, so I did that and just finished it off with a few little gems. She had a bead at the top, and then you just did your knots across, and I used a variegated green yarn to make my tree with. And then I have this little piece sitting on my desk from over Christmas. It was one of the little pieces that I used in some of my projects, and I had it still sitting there, so I decided to use that as the pot. And somebody commented on Instagram, pretty posh pot, and I thought, yeah, pretty posh, perfect. That's the pot on the bottom of the tree. And so those were the last 4 tags in the series for the 52 tags. And then that's just the back of the page. If she does do there is 53 weeks this year, and she might do one for that day, and I will put it on the back here if she does do that. And then this is just the back of with the fabric or the torn bed sheet that I used, and then I put the piece of lace over top. And there it is, and there it is, big fatty. How fat is it anyway? I didn't measure it is 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches on the spine there. So, but it is, I like this lace. It ties her up really nicely and holds everything in nicely. And I have her still laying here on a table beside my desk, and I can look through her, and I can hand her to people to look through, and it's actually pretty nice. So I'm pretty pleased how that turned out. And I'm excited to move on to my next stitching project for 2022, which will be a stitching book. So the 52 tags challenge is officially finished. I will link her channel below, because the videos are still all on her channel if you wanted to go over and do any of the prompts or start them for 2022 and follow and do it yourself then. if it's something you're interested in, you would have that option. And I will link her channel below, and then you can go and look up. She did a new video every Friday for 2021. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this beautiful book I created, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Thanks for stopping by. See you all soon. Bye-bye.